Hello and good morning. I welcome you to the morning meeting today on Tuesday, the 13th of January 2018. This is Jens Klatt speaking, exclusively presenting this format to you here for JFD Brokers as their global head of research and education. So we want to have a look at the markets and the developments. So all in all, it initially looked as if there's some more volatile action ahead of us in the morning with the market opening in the European markets, especially in the DAX. So Asian markets, especially Japanese Nikkei, came under pressure overnight, lost more than 1%. And those losses, so 1 second, by the way, well, those losses, first of all, let's have a look here. Those losses have probably some further potential on the downside. In fact, as you may remember, last week I made this bearish divergence in the Nikkei a topic here. And it seems as if now this divergence is not just playing out, but taking some momentum on the downside. I think we have to wait what happens around 33,050 points here on the downside. But you can see that there's still some further potential here. Which, by the way, makes it more likely that the Japanese yen can outperform. It's not just, by the way, Japanese strength, which is currently driving dollar yen lower, but it's also another push lower in the US dollar, which is not finding a bottom here after the comments from Steven Mnuchin here last week in Davos. In terms of that a weak US dollar is positive for the US economy, for trades or trading in general with partners and all these things. So obviously the market is not looking very strong right now, especially after the Nikkei again saw some losses, and that was one reason why the DAX here opened quite sharply lower. In fact, in the region of the weekly lows of last week here, with a true gap. So here's the low from yesterday. The market opened here, but as you can see here already, the market closed this gap, sees a pullback, and now the question arises, and it in fact arose in my mind too. Is it probably a good idea to consider short engagements against those lows here, against 13,270 to 13,300 points? And I have to say, I at the end wasn't very sure about this, and I decided not to go with a short against this region. So far now it looks as if probably there is some I'm missing a good opportunity here, even though I have to say that, and this is something based on my personal experience, when the market, after presenting itself weaker during Asian markets here, and in this case the Japanese market, when the market is really weak and there's risk aversion hitting, usually what you see right from the start of the trading day is that the DAX continues this weakness, and it's usually where would have been surprising to see a quite, let's see, strong attack, but at least an attack of this region, of this very, very crucial support region around 13,130 to 150 points here. And it didn't take place, but instead the market just turned around. And in fact, by the way, it turned around and was capable of doing so, even though Euro USD is currently pushing back above 124. So what I want to say is nothing more than it's not really weak what the DAX delivers so far. A clear technical break of the region around 13,130 to 150 points is in fact something which could then cause some further weakness, which is capable of pushing us minimum to 13,000, probably even lower in the upcoming days towards 12,700 points. But currently the whole picture does not indicate a very weak DAX, and so right now I'm still patient here and wait for such an attack. If it happens or not, that's something which highly depends, I think, on the US equity markets in the afternoon. But if we get to see such a push towards 130, 150,000, that would be my region against which I definitely consider short engagements, and that's something where I then go for a direct break of this region, even though I have no clear setup in mind yet. But it's definitely something worth considering. But and this is the thing, even though, one second please. Even though we see a sequence of falling highs and falling lows here, it's definitely something which so far isn't that clear, and that's one of the reasons why I still just step back here and don't want to trade such a pullback to this region short. I mean, at the end we have to say, if I short this region and the market really pushes lower from here and attacks this region, probably breaks this region, an entry which would have been 150 to 170 points higher is definitely to favor, even though all in all the picture is still very choppy sideways and not very clear, and that's definitely not the market environment in which you want to position yourself aggressively in. And and that's one of the reasons why currently I'm more patient and want to wait for such a break to happen, even though I right now already start to think about and prepare myself from a mental perspective for quite aggressive approach. I then go for here once we attack this region, probably break this region, then hopefully a good trading setup yeah, comes along, let's say. So that's it on the DAX then. Yeah, nothing to add here. Probably from an intraday perspective, something which I mentioned during the morning meeting was, especially if you're looking at a longer time frame, there's definitely some doubts right now whether the market is really, especially if you look at the US equity markets, by the way, whether it's really such a good idea to be aggressively long here with a long-term time frame. The longer you think about the current developments in the equity markets, the more you come probably to the conclusion one second, I have some trouble with my voice today. So if you look at these developments here in the equity markets, then there's definitely some doubt always coming with looking at those markets. So I mean, we've seen a very strong rally, and yesterday, in fact, we are currently looking at the Dow Jones, but in the S&P, that was the first 0.6% drop since the beginning of September, I think, which we've seen yesterday, which shows how volatile currently the complete market environment is. And the thing is that with this in mind, the developments we currently see here in the Swiss franc, for example, so Swiss franc sees some aggressive bid here, which means Euro Swiss franc is offered and broke this trend line. The same is true. The only problem here is that dollar Swiss franc is yeah, exactly weak, but that has not necessarily to do with the Swiss franc, but with the US dollar. But in fact, it's also the Swiss franc, which can be clearly seen when looking at Euro Swiss franc, for example. But the same is true also for the dollar Japanese yen. So currently you see this developments, and in the past, strength in the Japanese yen, strength in the Swiss franc, strength in gold. And I mean, we're talking about strength in gold here, even though currently you can see, and this is the development of 10-year yield, you can see yields rising aggressively. So that's definitely something which is not speaking a very strong language here, where it's a language in favor of the bulls here, and worth considering, even though, and this is the thing, I mean, if you see such a development, and now we come back to the DAX here, if you see such a development and the market not really pushing lower here, even though I mean, it's a very well and good assist, let's say. It's a good assist from the Asian markets here for the bears, and if they can take advantage of this, I mean, that's one clear sign that at least on an intraday basis here, you should be really careful in terms of short engagements right now, let's say. I mean, it depends on what the US markets deliver in the afternoon, and probably there will be some kind of bearish attack then again today, and let's see if it works out or not. And that's definitely something where you should be careful when trading the DAX from a long side then. But from an intraday perspective, with this push towards this region, we're right now from an intraday perspective trading at a crucial level, I think, around 13,260 points. If we push below this, then the advantage intraday on the long side is not given anymore, my perspective. But as long as we trade around this level, there's no reason not to at least give it a try to trade the long side here. And probably a bet on the DAX then pushing significantly back above 13,300 points here. And that's something which is, yeah, currently the topic for from an intraday perspective. If we push below that level, the next target can be found 20 points lower, 240 here. But all in all, even though there is some doubts out there and some developments which make it more likely that the market rather soon or later we see a quite significant drop, it's from an intraday perspective right now not sad that such a development really will take place. And we, I think, have to wait, definitely have to wait till the US markets open then in the afternoon, and see if this momentum from yesterday continues, if we keep on pushing lower. I mean, and this is also something we should remember here. We're talking about a pull from something like 500 points from the highs from yesterday to the lows from tonight. And this is already showing how much potential on the downside there is, if really some momentum is taking on then on the downside. So Dow Jones could be really interesting to watch, but currently probably we should just step back and be careful a little, and patient, especially in terms of potential trading setups. Let's have a look here at GBP USD. I mean, that's a very strong reaction, even though there was, by the way, no real trigger in the morning, which is right now presenting us some reasons why GBP making it so significantly back above 140 after pushing below 140 here in the morning. There was no economic data out there or something. Okay. Yeah, so currently it's currently I think I'd favor another push towards and below 140, towards the region around 113.50 here, and then going along against this region probably. The same is true, by the way, for the Euro USD, where I'd say I currently see this quite strong development here in the Euro, even though I have to say that I favor going along the Euro USD against the region around 120 to 80 here, 123, which wasn't triggered yet. So currently it's definitely US dollar weakness again. It has nothing really to do with the Euro, I think. Well, by the way, let me just have a look here. So there was some data published in the morning around the GDP and inflation, I think. But the data came in as expected, so it could have been such a push here, but no, it's not the case. So definitely US dollar weakness. Yeah, so this is the thing. So they're very difficult to be long Euro USD currently. And again, so 2280 is definitely a very interesting region you should look for here on the downside probably, against which we could then think about long engagements against. The same is, by the way, also true for dollar Japanese yen. Oh, sorry, it's here. So I'd really prefer short engagements in dollar yen right now. I think that we are not yet down on the downside, even though with the current weakness in the US dollar, it seems very unlikely that we can make it back towards and above 110.50 here. That's a potential short trigger I mentioned several times in the past already. Yeah, unfortunately, we are not making it back towards this level here. So in fact, very difficult. Seems as if we are now making it through on the downside without more significant pullback towards 107.50, 107, 107.50 here. And probably even lower than that if really some volatility picks in, or if volatility keeps on picking up. That's, by the way, also something very interesting I'd like to mention here. So the thing is that some might wonder why the market can stabilize at such an elevated level here after such a huge, not just spike, but development in the volatility index. You can definitely see that volatility is picking up again, which is in fact great. But the question is, why is that? And it's something to really worry about, let's say, because the main reason for that seems to be that market participants are not preparing for a sharp drop in equity prices, but they're preparing for more like they prepare for rising prices in the future. So they are buying calls here, and that's why volatility picks up. And this is a sign which is, I think, something really to worry about, because our chances are very high that market participants are not really considering a more significant drop in equity prices to be likely. And in combination with the Japanese yen rising, with the Swiss franc rising, knowing that the currency markets are way deeper and usually from time to time, let's say, more like what's the word for this? Forerunning. So or yeah, I don't know the English word, to be honest. It's the opposite of lagging. Yeah, let's call it forerunning. And because of the depth of the market, it's usually a sign that probably we are about to see at least a more corrective, more aggressive move on the downside here. And all we need, in fact, that's something Goldman Sachs mentioned in the morning, and I think this is really interesting from a cyclical standpoint. They said that, oh, by the way, I can probably show you the chart to this. It wasn't me, but it was a tweet from Jamie McGeever here. What you can see is that from a cyclical standpoint, we are far away from a bear market here, but the market is vulnerable to an event-driven bear market of correction. And this is the interesting thing, so I completely agree here. So we are right now not prepared for a more significant drop here. So there are many potential events out there. Escalation between Turkey and Syria, geopolitical tensions, any comments from Donald Trump against China, probably a trade war breaking out here between the US and China. So there are so many chances for such an event-driven bear market here, which could be taking place nearly all the time, especially when looking at the current volatility index, which indicates that market is buying insurance, but in fact it's not. It's only buying insurance against rising prices. And these developments here are not just only strange, but very difficult and dangerous, I think. And there's some bigger potential than on the downside, and something to really worry about. And based on that, again, developments here in the morning in the DAX then are definitely careful to be watched here. Wouldn't be such a big surprise if US equity markets probably come in weaker today and pushing lower from there, then, and that we are not yet done and get to see the attack on the downside here. And again, it's definitely worth watching this level around 130, 150. If you push below that, there's further room of minimum 150 points to 13,000, if not lower than that. And yeah, with this, I want to end the morning meeting today. I wish you happy trading. Watch your stops. Talk to you again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. GMT. I definitely look forward to it. Yeah, see you, and bye-bye.